The message came on a Tuesday evening, just as I was finishing another 12-hour shift at the hospital. A simple text from my mother. "We need to talk about your living situation with Sarah." I stared at those words, exhaustion forgotten, replaced by a creeping sense of dread. Because here's the thing about my sister Sarah. Whenever someone needed to talk about her, it usually meant she'd been spinning stories again. And lately her favorite story seemed to be about me. I called Mom back immediately, still sitting in my scrubs in the hospital parking lot. She answered on the first ring. "Your sister says you've been squatting in her house," Mom said without preamble. "She says you refused to leave and now she's afraid to confront you." I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. It was either laugh or scream. "Mom," I said, keeping my voice steady, "I pay the rent. I pay all the bills. I've been paying everything since Sarah lost her job last year." "That's not what she told us," Mom replied, her voice taking on that familiar defensive tone she always used when protecting her precious firstborn. "She says you promised to help with expenses but never did. She showed us her bank statements." Of course she did. Sarah was always good with paperwork, especially the kind she could manipulate. "Did she show you my bank statements?" I asked. "The ones showing every mortgage payment for the last 14 months? The utility bills? Her car payment that somehow became my responsibility?" Silence. Then, "She says those were loans. That you offered to help temporarily but then refused to move out when she asked." I closed my eyes, counted to 10, opened them again. "Mom, I have proof of everything. Every payment, every transfer, every time she's used my credit cards without permission. Would you like to see it?" "Don't be dramatic," Mom snapped. "This is your sister we're talking about. She wouldn't lie about something like this." But she would. She had. And she was about to learn exactly what happens when you bite the hand that's been feeding you. What my family didn't know, what Sarah had somehow forgotten, was that I wasn't just a nurse who worked too many shifts and paid too many bills. I was also the one person in the family who had inherited Grandpa's meticulous record-keeping habits. Every transaction, every borrowed credit card, every time she used my personal information without permission, I had it all. Documented, dated, backed up in triplicate. $127,000. That's how much Sarah had taken from me in the past 14 months. Not just the rent and utilities I'd willingly paid, but the unauthorized charges, the secret accounts, the emergency withdrawals that always seemed to coincide with her shopping sprees. I'd known about most of it. I'd been gathering evidence, building a case, waiting for the right moment. Because Sarah wasn't just stealing from me, she was stealing from others too. I'd found credit card statements in our mailbox with our neighbors' names, bank correspondence addressed to people I'd never met. But I'd kept quiet, kept paying, kept collecting proof. Because sometimes the best defense isn't just documentation, it's timing. I drove home slowly that night, my mind racing through contingency plans I'd hoped I wouldn't need. The house was dark when I arrived, but Sarah's car was in the driveway. She was home early for once. I found her in the kitchen, calmly making tea like she hadn't just tried to paint me as a homeless squatter to our parents. "Hey sis," she said, not looking up. "Rough shift." "You could say that," I replied, setting my bag down carefully. Had an interesting chat with Mom on the way home. Her hand stilled for just a moment, barely noticeable if you weren't looking for it. But I was looking. I'd gotten good at watching for her tells. "Oh," her voice was perfectly casual. "What about?" "Funny story, actually. She seems to think I'm squatting in your house, refusing to pay rent, taking advantage of your generosity." I leaned against the counter, watching her. "Want to explain that?" Sarah turned, tea in hand, her face arranged in that innocent expression she perfected years ago. "I might have mentioned being frustrated about the living situation," she said carefully. "You know how Mom exaggerates." "Right, just like those credit card statements in Mrs. Henderson's name that keep showing up in our mailbox? Is that an exaggeration too?" The cup stopped halfway to her lips. For the first time, I saw real fear flicker across her face. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, but her voice had lost its confidence. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app. "Let's talk numbers, Sarah. Let's talk about the $127,000 you've stolen from me in the past 14 months. Let's talk about the 3 credit cards you opened in my name. Or maybe we should talk about the identity theft ring you've been running out of our home office." She set the cup down hard, tea sloshing over the rim. "You're being ridiculous." Am I? Because I have to say, the police didn't think it was ridiculous when I spoke to them this morning. The color drained from her face. You wouldn't. I already did. I straightened up, grabbed my bag. They're coming tomorrow with a warrant. Thought you should know. I'm your sister, she whispered, like that was supposed to mean something. Like she hadn't just tried to have me thrown out of my own home. You're a thief, I corrected her. And tomorrow, everyone was going to know it. I walked to my room, locked the door, and waited. I knew Sarah well enough to know she wouldn't stay. She'd run, she always did when consequences got too close. But this time, running wouldn't help her. Because while she'd been busy spinning tales about her squatter sister, I'd been building something else. A case that would bring down not just her, but the entire identity theft operation she'd been running. The evidence was already with the police. The warrant was real, and in less than 12 hours, everything Sarah had carefully constructed, the lies, the fraud, the careful manipulation of our family, would come crashing down. I slept surprisingly well that night, lulled by the sound of her frantically packing in the next room. By morning, she'd be gone. But this time, she wouldn't be able to talk her way out of what was coming. Sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation, it's documentation. And I had documented everything. The next morning dawned bright and clear. Sarah's car was gone, as I'd expected. But she left something behind, something she probably thought would hurt me. On a kitchen counter was a letter, addressed to our parents, detailing all my supposed sins. How I'd taken advantage of her, how I'd threatened her, how I was unstable and dangerous and needed help. I added it to my evidence file. One more example of her manipulation, one more nail in the coffin she built herself. At exactly 9 a.m., the doorbell rang. Detective Lisa Martinez stood on my porch, warrant in hand, 2 officers behind her. She's gone, I said, stepping aside to let them in. We know, Detective Martinez replied. She tried to cross the state line an hour ago. State police picked her up at a gas station in Oregon. I blinked. I hadn't expected them to move that fast. They found quite a collection in her car. The detective continued. Credit cards, social security cards, bank statements, all with different names. Your sister's been busy. She has, I agreed, leading them to the home office. But not as busy as I've been. I opened my laptop, pulled up the folders I'd carefully organized over the past year. Financial records, surveillance footage from our home security cameras, recorded conversations, bank statements, everything they needed to prove not just theft, but organized fraud. Detective Martinez let out a low whistle as she scrolled through the files. This is impressive, she said. Most victims don't keep records like this. Most victims don't grow up with someone like Sarah, I replied. You learn to protect yourself. The detective nodded, still scanning the documents. This is going to make our job a lot easier. But I have to ask, why did you wait so long to report it? I looked around the house I paid for while Sarah lived in it rent-free, the house she tried to claim I was squatting in. Because I needed to be sure, I said finally. Sure that when she went down, she wouldn't be able to get back up. Sure that this time, she couldn't talk her way out of it. Well, Detective Martinez said, closing my laptop, I'd say you succeeded. The evidence is overwhelming. And with the identity theft charges from other victims, your sister's looking at serious time. Just then, my phone buzzed. A message from Mom. Sarah's been arrested. What did you do? I showed it to the detective, who shook her head. Want my advice? She said. Don't respond. Let the evidence speak for itself. Some families only understand the truth when it comes with handcuffs. She was right. I put my phone away, unopened messages piling up as my family tried to make sense of what was happening. But I didn't need to explain anything. The proof was all there, carefully collected and preserved. Sarah had made her choices. Now she could live with the consequences. And me. I had a house to reclaim, a life to rebuild, and a family to distance myself from. Because sometimes the people who should love you the most are the ones you need to protect yourself from the hardest. The officers spent hours going through the house, collecting evidence, taking photos. They found things even I hadn't known about, fake IDs hidden in air vents, credit card skimmers in Sarah's closet, a whole operation I'd been living alongside without realizing its full scope. By sunset, they had enough to fill 3 evidence boxes. Detective Martinez assured me they'd keep me updated on the case's progress, but we both knew this was just the beginning. As I locked up that night, alone in the house for the first time in months, I felt something unexpected. Peace. The kind of peace that comes not from winning a fight, but from finally stopping one you should never have been in. Sarah had chosen her path. She'd lied, stolen, and manipulated her way through life, always expecting her family connections to save her from consequences. But blood isn't always thicker than water. Sometimes it's just the red flag you've been trying not to see. The morning after Sarah's arrest, I woke up to a war zone of notifications. My phone had finally crashed from the volume of incoming messages, family members choosing sides, friends asking questions, even distant relatives I hadn't heard from in years suddenly having opinions about loyalty and blood. But the real bomb dropped at 8:47 a.m. when I checked my email. Subject: Urgent, family meeting tonight from Dad to Extended Family List. In light of recent events and false accusations against Sarah, we're holding an emergency family meeting tonight at 7 p.m. Attendance is mandatory. We need to discuss how to handle this situation as a family and support Sarah in her time of need. I actually laughed out loud. False accusations. The police had caught her crossing state lines with a car full of stolen identities. But sure, let's talk about family support. I didn't respond to the email. Instead, I forwarded it to Detective Martinez with a quick note. Heads up, family's planning damage control. Her response came within minutes. Don't attend. Don't engage. Let them dig their own holes. Good advice. I was about to close my laptop when another email arrived. This one from my cousin Michael, who worked at the bank where Sarah had opened several fraudulent accounts. You need to see this, was all it said, with an attachment. I opened the file and felt my stomach drop. It was a loan application from 6 months ago. Sarah applying for a business loan using my social security number, my work history, my credit score. But what made me sick wasn't the fraud. It was the cosigner's signature. Mom's name, clear as day. I called Michael immediately. There's more, he said before I could speak. A lot more. Your mom, she knew everything. She's been helping Sarah hide money for years. Not just yours. Other victims, too. The room spun. How long? At least 3 years, maybe longer. I've been going through the records since I heard about Sarah's arrest. It's bad, Emma. Really bad. I sat down hard, my mind racing. 3 years. Mom had known for 3 years, watched me work double shifts to cover bills, seen me drain my savings to help Sarah, and said nothing. More than said nothing, she actively helped hide the evidence. I was still processing this when my phone buzzed with a text from Detective Martinez. Your sister's asking to make a deal. Says she has information about other people involved. Are you free to come down to the station? I arrived at the police station 30 minutes later, still in my scrubs from the night shift. Detective Martinez met me in the lobby, her face grim. Before we go in, she said, you should know, your sister's claiming this was all your mother's idea. Says she was pressured into it, that your mom's been running financial scams for years. I showed her Michael's email. Looks like she might be telling the truth for once. The detective read the loan document, her eyebrows rising. This changes things. We'll need to bring your mother in for questioning. She's probably at my apartment right now, I said. They're having a family meeting to discuss how to support Sarah. Detective Martinez smiled, not a nice smile. Perfect. Mind if we crash the party? I handed her my keys. Be my guest. What happened next would later be described in family legend as the night everything exploded. At exactly 7 p.m., while my relatives were gathering in my living room to plot Sarah's defense, 3 police cars pulled up outside. Detective Martinez led the team, warrant in hand. From what I heard later, Mom tried to run. She made it as far as the back patio before they caught her. Dad had a heart attack scare. He was fine, just dramatic. Aunt Patricia fainted dead away into the bean dip. And my phone? It basically melted down. Dad, what have you done? Uncle Steve, the police are here. Cousin Amy, your mom just tried to jump the fence, Aunt Linda. This is all your fault. How could you do this to your own mother? I turned off my phone, sat in the police station's waiting room, and waited for the dust to settle. It took 3 hours. When Detective Martinez finally came back, she looked like she'd been through a war. Your mother, she said, dropping into the chair beside me, is quite a piece of work. Know what she said when we showed her the evidence? Well, Emma was always so stingy with her money. Someone had to teach her about sharing. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Did she confess? Oh, she did better than that. She tried to cut a deal by throwing Sarah under the bus. Gave us everything. Files, records, names of other victims. Turns out your sister wasn't the mastermind after all. Your mother's been running this scheme for over a decade. The implications hit me like a truck. All those years of guilt trips about money, all those lectures about family obligation, they weren't just manipulation. They were part of a systematic fraud operation. There's something else, the detective added, her voice softer. We found accounts in your grandmother's name. Lots of them. All opened after she died. I closed my eyes. Grandma had died 3 years ago, leaving everything to Mom. We'd all wondered why the inheritance had seemed so small. Now we knew. The next few weeks passed in a blur of legal meetings, family accusations, and shocking revelations. Sarah took a plea deal, agreeing to testify against Mom in exchange for a lighter sentence. Mom was charged with multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and financial exploitation. Dad, who claimed he knew nothing and for once might have been telling the truth, filed for divorce. The family split into factions. Some defended Mom and Sarah, claiming they were victims of circumstance. Others sided with me, horrified by the scope of the deception. Most just stopped speaking to anyone involved, too scared to pick a side. But the real surprise came from Grandma's lawyer, who contacted me after hearing about the case. Your grandmother, he said during our meeting, wasn't as naive as your mother thought. She left a sealed letter with instructions to open it if there was ever any question about the inheritance. He handed me an envelope yellowed with age. Inside was a single page in my grandmother's distinctive handwriting. My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, it means the truth has finally come out. I always knew your mother would try to take everything. She's been trying to get her hands on my money for years. That's why I set up a secret trust in your name. The inheritance your mother thought she stole? It was a decoy. The real estate, the investments, my art collection. It's all waiting for you. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you while I was alive. Your mother would have found a way to take it, but I've watched you grow into someone strong, someone honest, someone who understands the true value of things. The kind of person I always wished your mother would be. Take care of yourself, my dear, and remember, sometimes the best family is the one you choose, not the one you're born into. Love, Grandma. I sat in the lawyer's office, reading and rereading those words until they blurred through my tears. Even from beyond the grave, Grandma had been protecting me. The final domino fell 2 months later at Sarah's sentencing hearing. She got 5 years with possibility of parole after 3. Mom got 12, no possibility of early release. As Sarah was led away in handcuffs, she turned to me one last time. I really thought I'd get away with it, she said, almost wondering. We always did before. That was your mistake, I replied. You thought I was the same person you've been stealing from all these years. But I'm not. I grew up. The aftermath was both easier and harder than I expected. Easier because the truth was finally out, harder because building a new life meant accepting that my old one had been built on lies. I sold the house, too many memories, used some of Grandma's inheritance to buy a small cottage by the sea, started therapy, made new friends, adopted a dog who never asks me for money or tries to steal my identity. Dad calls sometimes when he's not too busy with his new life and younger girlfriend. We keep it superficial. He's not ready to face his role in everything that happened, and I'm not ready to help him process it. The rest of the family gradually drifted away, unsure how to handle someone who refused to sweep criminal behavior under the rug of family loyalty. That's fine. I've learned that loyalty should be earned, not assumed. Sometimes I get letters from Sarah or Mom, full of justifications and manipulations thinly disguised as apologies. I don't read them anymore. Their words have no power over me now. Last week, I found an old photo album while unpacking. There we were, Mom, Sarah, and me, smiling at some long-ago birthday party. We looked so normal, so happy. But now I know better. I took the photo out, wrote on the back, sometimes the biggest theft isn't money, it's trust. Then I put it away in a box marked past, because that's where it belongs, the past. Me? I'm too busy building a future, one where my bank accounts are secure, my boundaries are strong, and my chosen family knows that love doesn't come with a price tag. Sarah and Mom thought they could steal my money, my identity, my place in the family. Instead, they lost everything, including me. And I. I finally found something worth more than all the money they stole. Freedom. The kind of freedom that comes from knowing who you are, what you're worth, and why some families are better left in the rearview mirror. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting away.